Today, I want to talk about how to properly perform a push-up. I really do like push-ups. I think pretty much everybody can do them with a little bit of modification, but I think the basics have to be covered first. So, one of the questions that I get asked all the time is where do I put my hands? Where's the proper placement for my hands? And I like to tell my clients, walk up to the wall and without thinking, push against it. Wherever your hands land, that is a neutral placement for your push-up. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, okay? Now, of course, depending on what variation of a push-up you're doing, you may want to go a little wider or a little more narrow, but you won't know what that looks like until you know what neutral is for you, okay? So you can see for me, I'm about a little wider than shoulder width, and I'm right underneath my chest, okay? That's perfect placement. Get to that wall without thinking, push against it, there's your hand placement. Another thing to consider is where your elbows track with the push-up movement. If I push without thinking against the wall, my elbow, my arm here is at a nice neutral angle, okay? So when you're performing that push-up, you want to make sure that the elbows track along that line and you don't come too far out or too far in, okay? I will say that too far in is better than too far out because at the worst case scenario, if your elbows are tracking towards your rib cage, you're just going to put more tension and more stress on the tricep than you would the bicep, which of course is just a tricep push-up and there's nothing wrong with that. Now the next thing you want to think about with a push-up is your starting position, and that is just a plank, okay? If you're not sure how to properly plank, I want you to get to the end of your mat and just stand whatever would be neutral for you, okay? Nice tall position, shoulders are down away from the ears, knees are nice and soft but not locked out, and I'm about hip width apart here. If I were to just stand naturally, this is my stance. That's a good place to start. Then you want to walk out into your plank. Again, you want to find your hand placement as if you had just pushed against the wall, which is for me right under the chest, right about shoulder width, and my feet are not in my standing stance, okay? Now I'm going to engage the abs, pull the legs in, engage the glute, and keep my shoulder blades down away from my ears. That's very important when you're in a plank, okay? A lot of times what happens is you'll see the scapula start to retract or protract, okay? That's going to cause an imbalance with your plank. So make sure your shoulders should be in line with the ears, the hips should be in line with the shoulders, knees in line with the hips, and ankles in line with the knees, okay? So it literally should be a straight line between your ears down to the ankles. So let's get back in that plank position. And let's talk about the movement. A lot of times people think about lowering the chest into the floor. There's nothing wrong with that, but you really want to think about what that movement looks like. If I were to just push my chest into the floor, my shoulder blades start to retract here and my hips start to dip, okay? That is not correct, and that's going to cause a lot of injury for you. So instead, what I want you to think about is keeping the shoulders in line with the ears and bending the elbow to pull yourself into the floor, okay? So I sometimes think about it as pulling the floor up to me. All right, so I'm just going to bend the elbows and nice slow lower down. You want to get almost to the floor and then push back up, okay? So one thing that happens when you push up is the hips either want to dip because they're lagging, or you want to lead with the hips, and that causes them to rise up to the ceiling. So when you start to that pushing, actual movement of pushing up, you want to think about keeping those hips in line with the shoulders, shoulders in line with the ears, okay? Most important thing. So let's look at that again. If I'm going to walk up to a wall and push against it, here's my hand placement. I'm standing nice and neutral, so here's my feet placement. I'm going to walk it out into my plank. I'm going to take a pause and make sure that my shoulders are away from the ears but in line with them. Shoulders are in line with the hips. Hips are in line with the knees. Knees are in line with the ankles, okay? I'm going to bend the elbow and pull the floor up into my chest. And then push back up, making sure that the hips stay in line, okay? So that is a perfect push-up form. It's more important for you to do 10 of those just like that than it would be for you to do 30 with a natural form or faltered form. All of those basics apply, even if you're not in a full push-up, you're on your knees, or if you're not able to get to the floor yet, you can absolutely do these on the wall. I hope this helps you guys perfect your push-up form and makes you feel more comfortable incorporating that into your workout routine.